Hit. 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 Hit.
Last target?
Last target. Hit. Nice.
69-48 clean.
Maybe this dick, barrel needs to be shorter. Hit. Hit. Don't fuck up! Hit! 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 Oh, he got it. Over!
What is happening, all of you sexy warriors out there? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm gonna ask y'all a question that I've been grappling with for years, and I feel like I finally have a solid answer to, and that is, if I could only choose one rifle and one pistol to go to war with to defend freedom from tyranny, foreign or domestic, which two would that be? Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today, I wanna answer the question for you guys. If I had to sell all my guns, but one rifle and one pistol, what two would I keep for kind of a do-it-all, protecting freedom from tyranny, foreign or domestic? I only mention that because I'm not counting this as the gun that I would also hunt large game with, obviously, but it is more for a Second Amendment purpose. That is kind of the question I've been tackling with and grappling with over the years. And I want to talk to you guys in painstaking detail why I decided to go with the 12.5 LMT Spec War that you see in front of you and the Glock 19X that you see in front of you as well. Both of these guns have a lot of attachments, a lot of purpose behind the things that I have on these guns, and a lot of trigger time with both as well. So this is going to be a pseudo review, a smaller review, I guess you could say, inside a larger concept video, if you want to call it that, because we are going to be technically reviewing the LMT Spec War and the Glock 19X, but it's more so a concept, a thought experiment that I want you guys to work with, and let me know down in the comments about what are your two go-to rifles and why that is. What caliber, what barrel length, what optic choice, everything, and we'll go over that again from blast end to ass end as we always do here on the channel, starting with the LMT. But before we do get into the specs of the LMT, the Glock 19X, we do have to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel, which is Brownells. If you do want to support the channel, guys, please head over to rangedaybro.com. We have a discounts page with all of our affiliate links and codes over there, including RDB10, which gets you you know what over at you know where. And also all of our merch is over there. So our Tactical Buckies operator shirts, all of our loadout links as well. So this LMT is up on the loadouts page. So if you're curious about any parts and where to find them, the loadouts page has all those links. They are affiliate links, so when you do shop with them, it does support the channel. So thank you so much to every single one of you for doing so. Also, guys, it would mean a lot to me if you liked, commented, and subscribed on this video, especially on this video for the comment section, guys. Let me know what you guys are choosing. If you had to sell every other rifle and just keep one, why would it be that one that you would keep? And same thing for the pistol as well. I'm genuinely curious as to what you guys are running and why. With that being said, here's a hot take for you guys. I don't think that there's any reason personally to have a 5.56 gun longer than 12.5 inches. The reason being because this gun in 12.5 inches, according to my chronograph data, with 77 grain OTM pills, which is the most energy you can get out of this platform, I'm pushing about 2,400 feet per second velocities, which is gonna get me supersonic velocities out to 650 yards. If you guys look at the data, especially during rule of law, when the country's still standing, everything's good and fine and dandy, most firearm engagements are happening at self-defense distances. We're talking like 3 to 10 yards really. And even when you look at active war zone scenarios like Ukraine, like Gaza, modern militaries going head to head, you still see that most engagements are happening well within 200 yards, most of the time between 50 and 150 yards. Again, to have a 12.5, keeping it small, lightweight, maneuverable, but still pushing out pretty good ballistics from the 12.5 and being able to reach out to 650 yards, although the energy is going to obviously drop a lot by the end of that effective range there, you're still going to be having a great effective weapons platform that not only overall weighs less than a 14.5 or 16 inch or 18 inches and so on and so forth, but it also keeps all of your attachments, all of that weight that's typically on the front of your gun closer to you, like your suppressor, your lights, if you're running lasers, clip-on thermal devices. We'll just pop this guy off real quick. I just thought it'd be cool to show you guys the capability for the 12.5, but it still gives you enough rail space to run a clip-on thermal, to run lasers, and have all of the attachments that you may need depending on what your mission set is. So again, hot take, I really don't see a reason to run a longer gun than a 12.5 because again, 99% of the time engagements during wartime or especially during peacetime for self-defense are going to be well within the effective range of a 12.5. Still keeping it lightweight, maneuverable. You're going to get more velocity than a 10.3 and 11.5, meaning you're going to have better terminal effects on target, but you're sacrificing a little bit more velocity once you get past 12.5, obviously to 14.5 and 16 for that maneuverability, for that weight savings. And so my opinion is, now that I've had some time to get behind 6 ARC, it's really a phenomenal caliber. The reason this is not a 6 ARC is just because of time. As of today, 5.56 is just way more widely available, highly, extremely reliable, and everybody's running it. So all my guys have the same magazines, they have the same ammunition, and we could trade and help each other out in a scenario in which we are running low on ammunition. That's the only reason 6 ARC isn't in the question right now. I think in the near future, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, this conversation looks very different. If you're gonna go longer than 12.5 and go to 14.5, that is where I think it just makes more sense to go something like 6 ARC, where then you can have capabilities and supersonic ballistics out to 1,000 yards with a heavier pill that's gonna have more energy, so on and so forth. So that's why I chose this one. And I chose this one because everybody that I shoot with runs 5.56. Again, for a without rule of law scenario, or you're running with your buddies, something like that, this is gonna be much more realistic for 2025 as it sits today. So before we start talking about the rifle setup and everything, I want to give you guys really quickly full disclosures, what was actually sent to me and what did I purchase with my own money. So the optics setup, including the mount, the scope, and the top dot, were sent to me by Primary Arms. The scope caps were sent to me by 100 Concepts. Charging handle, the upper receiver, I did purchase on my own. The suppressor was sent out for review on the channel, so Huxworks sent this out. I bought this Surefire Mini Scout here. The lower I purchased, everything on the lower I purchased with my own money, including the stock, the tube, the whole lower, including the trigger here as well, and the HRF I purchased with my own money. The Stoic bag was sent out, and the Samson grip was sent out. Neo Mag Sentry strap I bought. The HRT sling was sent out to me. As far as the pistol goes, only the Surefire was sent out by Brownells, and the Radian Ramjet combo was given to me by Radian at GunCon. So now that we kind of talked about the concept, right, this gun can do everything I'm going to need it to do from 0 to 650 yards. That's why I chose this gun. Also, specifically the LMT, I want to dive more into the specifics on this setup, the way this particular gun is set up. This is a completely stock factory gun, YouTube. This is not violating any of your terms of conditions or policies. This is 100% stock. So we'll go blast into acid and talk about this setup and why this thing functions so well, why it's so perfectly tuned. So starting up here at the front, we have the Flow 6K. The reason I love this can is because the gun essentially does not realize that it's there. It changes very little to zero how the gun operates, does not introduce more hot gas back into the system, further fouling it up, causing it to cycle faster, causing it to increase the wear and tear on your parts. So I love it because the gun does not realize it's there. It does a very good job for the size and weight, flash reduction and sound reduction. Is it the best? Is it the quietest? No, but it is very small, compact, and it just fits this 12.5 perfectly. So I have zero complaints. We did run this thing very hard on special third position mode, which we can't talk about here on YouTube, but it survived and thrived in that environment. We had no issues with it whatsoever. It didn't back off. So very happy with the Flow 6K. Moving back from there to the LMT 12.5 Spec War barrel. This is kind of the heart of the rifle. It is a chrome-lined 1-in-7 twist barrel with a mid-length gas system. Mid-length gas makes it super pleasant to shoot, super soft recoiling. That combined with the flow-through suppressor and the weight and spring we're running, which we'll talk about here in a moment, makes this thing run like an absolute sewing machine dream. Now, as far as the accuracy goes, I was getting 0.5 to 0.7 inch groups at 50 yards with a 5,200 yard zero on this LPVO, and that translates to 1 to 1.5 MOA groups at 100. So that is perfectly acceptable accuracy. I'm not disappointed in that whatsoever. I would have loved to have seen this be consistently under an inch, but we were using cheap AAC 77 grain ammunition. Now, moving back from there, let's talk about the upper receiver, which makes this rifle very special. This is a monolithic upper receiver, meaning it is one piece from the upper here to the handguard. So there is no barrel nut in the traditional sense where it actually holds the barrel into the upper and the handguard clamps onto it. It is just one piece of solid machined aluminum from the upper to the handguard. So there's no seam here at all. Makes it super solid, as rigid as you can get for a upper to handguard connection. So one of the biggest reasons I chose the LMT as my one to keep, and it's kind of a cheat, right? Because if you're out in the wilderness, you're out in the field, you're not gonna be able to do a quick barrel swap, or most likely most people would not be swapping barrels, but you can just loosen up these two bolts here on the handguard and you could pull the barrel out and swap it out with a different barrel. And it's just as simple as removing these two bolts. Yes, you do need to remove your M-lock attachments, which is a bit of a pain, not the end of the world, however. Remove your M-lock attachments, pull the barrel out, swap it out for a different caliber, and then run and gun as you see fit. So you could swap it out for 300 blackout, really anything that would fit in an AR platform, including 6 ARC, which is the one I'm most likely going to be swapping it to. But that's another big reason, besides obviously it being an absolute rock solid platform, great accuracy, 100% reliability through all 1,000 rounds we put through it so far, which again isn't a super high round count, but zero issues whatsoever. So I have my confidence in this is 100% right now. Now, would I still choose this if it wasn't for that barrel swap capability? Yes, I still would, because it is such a smooth shooting gun, and because the handguard, there's zero chance of the rail shifting for IR and for clip-on thermals and such, so it's just such a solid system. I still would choose it, but that is definitely a cherry on top. But let's move back into the upper receiver group, where we have a BCG that I think is worth mentioning, because I don't know if they get the credit they deserve or if you guys have ever heard of them. So right here, you probably can't see it because it's really dirty and I haven't cleaned it, as I mentioned. But this is the, yeah, look how dirty that thing is. This bolt carrier group is not the LMT. In fact, it is the KAK, or CAK for short. It is their chrome sand cutter downward venting bolt carrier group, and it has been phenomenal. As you guys can see from the footage, the ejection pattern is perfect. Almost every single piece of brass is like rotating in synchronization in the air. It is a thing of beauty. And you guys can see, because it is chrome, it is incredibly easy to clean. There's nothing on this cloth here. It's just straight up dry, but you can see how easy it is to clean off because of that chrome coating that it has. So it makes it super slick. It remains reliable, again, zero lube, zero cleaning through all 1,000 rounds, and it just kept chugging. So I'm a big fan. It does have some other improvements as well. It's got the sand cutters on the rails, so it can cut through, build up carbon and all that good stuff. And it also has a dual ejector, so the actual plungers that push the shell out, there's 2 of them instead of 1, similar to some AR-10s. And so it makes for an extremely consistent ejection pattern, which is exactly what you want to see on a setup like this. Now, as far as the charging handle goes, the Geisley airborne charging handle is the one we chose. I am a huge fan of the airborne charging handles. I put them in every single gun that I can afford to. They just work. They're small. They don't get caught up on your kit. So I'm a big fan of these charging handles. They also have a good lip in the back to block any excess gas from coming back into your face, which is not a big problem with this rifle the way it's set up. Now, getting into the buffer tube and the spring and weight, we are running a Geisley braided wire buffer spring and an H3 buffer weight. Now, I know some of you guys might think that sounds like a pretty heavy buffer weight for a mid-length gas system. What I did find is that with an H2 buffer weight, it still performs well, especially semi-auto. But once you go to T to get that cadence down just right, it really likes the H3, even with the flow-through cans. So the beautiful part about the flow-through can is the gun doesn't notice it's there, so this gun still runs reliably without the suppressor as well as with the suppressor. I've only shot a few rounds without the suppressor because, again, once you start shooting suppressed, you're never gonna go back. But it does still run without the can because of the flow-through nature of this. So I don't have to worry about taking the can off and this being a suppressed only gun because the buffer weight's too heavy. But again, it does still function well. If you wanted a little bit more reliability, you could go down to an H2, which I may consider doing in the future. But for right now, I've run 1,000 rounds through it again with no cleaning, no added oil or anything, and this thing has run flawlessly. So I see no reason to go down to a lower buffer weight personally. But if I start to have hiccups in the future, or it starts to get gummed up, I can always drop it down to an H2 and get better reliability, but a little bit more gas as well in the process. So moving down to the lower, you guys can see we have this little fun guy right here, which we can't talk about too much, but all you need to know is that it is phenomenally reliable. I've had 0 issues through 4,000 rounds with this thing, and I'm just in love with it. Again, we can't talk about it, unfortunately, but we'll move on past that to the lower. It is just a standard Daniel Defense SBR lower. I've had it for forever. I've run it on many different uppers because it's my SBR, and I'm running the Geisley A17 grip for those of you wondering. I have a Maritime bolt catch over here on the left side of the gun, and just a standard mil-spec bolt release. We do have an HRF Concepts magwell on here. And now I guess we can go to the attachments, or the furniture, I guess you could say, all the accoutrement, and talk about why I have it set up the way that I do. Now, before you fall asleep with me talking about in gruesome detail about this setup, the optic and all this stuff, and why I have it set up this way, we are gonna stop real quick and just talk about the pistol. There's not as much to say about the pistol, so we'll just go over this thing real quick. So first and foremost, this is a standalone for any Glock, okay? This is the 19X. This is my personal everyday carry gun. This is what I shoot in competitions. This is the one gun that I do everything with, that I trust my life to, because I have the most rounds on it and I have the most confidence with it in shooting it. So I have a lot of really high-speed guns. I got 2011s, I got compacts, subcompacts. This is the gun I continuously go back to. All you need in a pistol is a Glock or something that is extremely reliable, that you trust, and you have thousands and thousands of rounds with, because it doesn't matter who you buy from, as long as it's not SIG. Everyone makes lemons, right? SIG makes every other one's a lemon on the 320 line at least. But for the Glock lineup, it is phenomenally reliable, which is the whole point. So this is an OEM slide that Maple Leaf Firearms milled for me. This is their duty cut. I decided to go rear sight forward. That's just the way I prefer it. My eye doesn't tend to want to pick up that rear sight nearly as much, but it's still available if you did want to use your irons for whatever reason. If your dot failed on you for whatever reason, you could still use your irons, as you can see right there. These are Ameriglow suppressor height sights, blacked out rear and orange with tritium front sight. But all you need is a reliable pistol that you've shot, and that you've shot with your self-defense ammo just yesterday, since the Radian is relatively new. We have 1,000 rounds through it so far, but I did run 17 rounds, a full mag of my Federal HST through it, 124 grain. It's my self-defense ammo. And I ran it through because that's what I carry it with, and I want to make sure it would run with that. I don't do that all the time because it gets very expensive, but for one mag, I think it's absolutely necessary to make sure that the gun, the barrel, with this new barrel combination and with the afterburner ramjet, I wanted to make sure it would function properly without any hiccups with the self-defense ammo. So, and it did, as expected. I recently came in first place in my local 2-gun match. The last month I shot it with a PMM comp. I placed 3rd, so maybe it was the ramjet that did it for me. You could argue that. I was shooting this thing really, really well. And so I'm a big fan of this setup, but again, this is just a stand-in for any reliable handgun, whether it be Smith & Wesson, whatever your flavor of the month is. It could be a Glock 45, 47. This is pretty much a Glock 45. Just call it 19X because it's tan grip. Again, stand in for insert your favorite reliable pistol here. This is the one that I really recommend for anybody who wants one gun to do everything, for a war belt setup, for everyday carry. I've had arguments about guys telling me this is a way too big of a gun to carry. If you're 5'5" and 150 pounds, it's probably too big for you to carry. But for me, I conceal it well, I shoot it really well, and so why wouldn't I carry the thing that I shoot best? That's kind of my mindset there. Now that we talked about the pistol and why I chose that pistol, it's very simple. It's just extremely reliable. It just works. It's not the fanciest thing in the world, but with that ramjet afterburner combo, it shoots very smooth. The felt recoil reduction is very nice, and it's easy for me to get quick follow-up shots. And the most important thing is reliability. With anything that I review, reliability is the barrier to entry. If it's not reliable, it's a range toy, and it doesn't even get screen time on my channel. So that is why I chose the Glock 19X. I love that gun, and I don't see that going away anytime in the near future. Getting back to the LMT, I want to talk to you guys about the setup here and why, again, why LPVOs are the best. I want to talk to you really quickly about my most recent match that I won. It was actually my first match win ever out of any match I've ever competed in. I've come close in a few pistol matches, but this was a 2-gun match. It was Centex Shooting Sports, and this is the Centex multi-gun that they host at RPR, the best range in Texas. If you guys are in the Central Texas area, check out RPR. I'm a big fan. And check out Centex Shooting Sports because it is a blast. And last time I spoke about them on the channel, a follower, a buddy of mine actually decided to come out and he shot with me, so that was really fun. But this Saturday, I won the match, so I'm very happy with that, right? Still a ton of room for improvement, but this was the gun and this was the pistol that I won the match with. and they're very basic, duty oriented, and they're not set up to game the system to win a two-gun match. There's plenty of guys that were there that were running EOTech. I mean, it was an open division, right? Two guns open, so you could run whatever optic combination you want. There's really not many rules for what you can and can't do. And so some guys were running 11.5 or 12.5 with an EOTech and an offset red dot for all the up close stuff. And the second we got to the long range stuff, which was 0 to 600 yards or 575 yards, they would swap out their uppers for a 16 or an 18-inch upper with a magnified optic. And so they're kind of gaming it. And I'm not mad at them at all. It is what it is, right? Why wouldn't you game it if you were trying to win? But for me, it's not about trying to win. It's about getting better with the tools that I actually use and train with and want to become proficient with. And that's why I took these two guns, my everyday carry pistol and the Spec War, which is my new nightstand gun. And I actually won the competition, which was pretty awesome. But it did prove to me that not only could you be capable with something like a do-it-all rifle like this one is set up for and a duty-rated pistol in a competition setting, but you could also excel and win, right? It's not about the arrow, it's about the Indian, but I also think there's a lot to be said about the way this thing is set up that allowed me to not only win stages where the furthest rifle targets were at 15, 20 yards, and also win stages where the furthest rifle targets were at 575 yards. As far as the optic setup, because that's the biggest thing here about the capability, this is a Primary Arms PLXC 1-8. This is not the RDB version. It's not Range Day Bro. It's Red Dot Bright that they recently came out with. This is their original version, so it's daylight red, as they say. So what I really love about the two-gun match over all the other matches that I've shot is that it mixes the two weapons that you're most likely to use in a real combat scenario, right? The carbine, 100% most likely to be used, and then your pistol as a backup. And it allows you to train at different distances under pressure with both. So there were stages where we shot the rifle at 10 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards, and then there were stages where we shot it at 180 yards and then there was one stage, it was rifle only, where we shot it from 110 out to 575 yards. So, as I mentioned, some guys gamed it and swapped uppers out, but I want one gun that can do everything and I want to be really proficient with it, and that's why I chose this optic setup. Now, as we mentioned with the pistol and the rifle, this optic setup is kind of a placeholder for whatever LPVO that you might already have or from any reputable manufacturer, right? The Attacker's great, Razor makes, Vortex makes good stuff, Trijicon makes good stuff, even Arkin on the lower end budget stuff makes good stuff, and even some of the cheaper Primary Arms stuff is really good. But we're going to talk about this one specifically because it's what I have on here and it's what I've been using, and I really did enjoy it. So the one dislike about this optic, I guess there's two, right? At the top end, like most LPVOs, it is a very tight eye box. So shooting at the very far targets off of a rooftop at a obscure angle where it's kind of hard to balance and you're really trying to work on your stability, sometimes it was hard to keep there from being scope shadow creeping in and out of my vision with this. But the bigger, more glaring issue is that it's not red dot bright. So it makes it a lot harder to use it as a dedicated 1X at those up close and quick, fast engagements when you're trying to transition from target to target. That's why I chose a 1.5 inch height on here, because I wanted to have a more solid cheek weld for the longer shots when I'm dialed up. But then I also didn't want my top dot to be sky high so that I could still keep a chin weld when using my top dot. And so I know this is gonna upset a lot of people on the internet, but I do typically just use my top dot for those up close engagements, like 50 yards and in, and then I use my magnified optic, my LPVO, for those 75, 100, and all the way out to 650 yards is when I really get into the glass here. I know that's kind of going against the point of an LPVO. Even though I love high-end magnification, especially for target identification and whatnot, I still think that it's worth it to save the weight on an optic setup like this versus going with a 2-12. But once you add the top dot and the mount and everything, the biggest complaint about LPVOs from me is that they're heavy. And so when you go with an MPVO, they just get even heavier. And if you're gonna go top dot, it kind of defeats the purpose of going with an LPVO in my opinion. So why not use a top dot? It's still not super high. I can use it for passive aiming. I can use it at closer targets and closer distances, keep a really heads up shooting position. And then I can drop into the main optic for those longer shots. I could also still use it at 1X if it had a red dot bright feature like the new RDB version has. I probably would be using it a lot more at 1X, and I probably would have it on a 1.7 inch height, but that's neither here nor there. That's just the reason I'm talking to you guys about this, because that is my experience with it. So up here in the front and on the back, we have the 100 Concepts Scope Cap Pros. So this just protects your glass from dust and debris and whatnot when you're not using it, which is really nice. And the ARD protects you from NDing or getting a reflection off there when you're aiming downrange at a living target. Now going back up here to the front, we have a Surefire Vampire. So this is white light, and then with a twist of the head here, it goes to off position, and then it goes to IR position. So you have the ability to use this for illuminating under your night vision, which is really cool. I know we talked about it briefly earlier. I don't have a ton of time with the DNT Hydra that you see right here, but this is an awesome little thermal that gives you the ability to not only detect but engage targets using your day optic, and you can use it as a handheld scanning device. You can throw it on your gun, and so it gives you a lot of versatility as to what you can do with it. It has an American Defense Manufacturing QD on here. And again, if you have one gun to rule them all, right? If you want to shoot anywhere past 50 to 100 yards, IR laser really isn't the way to go, in my opinion, especially in peer-on-peer type situations. We've heard from Ukraine of guys sending out IR signature in any capacity, whether it be a rangefinder or an IR laser or even just their phone in their hands, and getting a tank round sent at them from like half a mile away or a mile away, because again, those tanks have sophisticated equipment to detect those IR signatures and be able to engage you. So it's really cool to have the ability to throw on a clip-on thermal like this guy right here and not give out any signature whatsoever and detect heat from very long distances away. Let's move on to the sling right here and the sentry strap. So this is the Neomag sentry strap. Velcros onto your handguard here, and then it uses a very strong magnet to clamp on and hook onto your sling to keep it managed and out of the way if you're not using it. So to use it, you just Velcro it onto your handguard like so, and then you just take this flap right here, you throw your sling through it, and then you just use the magnet and it keeps it in place. And then when you need it, you just pull it out and it stays stowed and out of the way, which is really nice. Now, as far as the sling itself goes, this is the HRT Tactical Sling. This is their padded combat sling. I am a huge fan of this. This is my new favorite sling because the padding isn't too thick that it gets in the way. It gets cumbersome when you fold it up and stow it away using the sentry strap, but it's also thick enough that it's extremely comfortable to use. It doesn't cut you when it's sliding on your neck like some of the thinner ones do. And I'm just a big fan. Super smooth gliding mechanism for the adjustment. Just a really well-made sling. RDB5 will save you guys 5% off at HRT. Now moving back to the Stoic Solutions barricade bag. This is their slimline barricade bag. This thing weighs 3 ounces. I weighed it on my own scale. That's not from their website. That's actually what it weighs. It is a phenomenal piece of equipment that weighs virtually nothing, doesn't get in the way whatsoever, and is very easy to take on and off. It's just these 2 bungee cords and you just hook them on these 100 Concept clips. They're in collaboration with 100 Concepts. So very easy to take on and off if you wanted to take it off for whatever reason, but it gives you an extremely solid solution for aiming if you're shooting off of a barricade in any kind of adverse shooting position. It is a game changer. I'm a big fan of these. Up here we have the Samson Manufacturing VFG. This is their shorty grenade VFG. We've had discussions about making a Range Day Bro version that's just slightly longer, like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch longer, because their medium length one is like a full broomstick, which I don't really love having something that big. It gets caught up on a lot of things, but it is aluminum, it has direct M-LOK attachments, and if you want to, I should have on that last long range stage during that 2-gun match just remove this because it kind of got in the way with the barricade bag I was using. Very easy to remove it in the field and you could just throw it back on. Again, simply, quickly, just uses the bottom, spin it on, tighten it down, and you're good to go. Moving back from there, HRF Concepts magwell. Guys, this magwell is an absolute game changer, especially under nods. If you haven't shot with night vision, then you really won't understand what I'm talking about, but just try to do it with your eyes closed. It's essentially the same thing, because with night vision, everything is, you have to set a focal length, and it's usually like 10 to 25 yards-ish, depending on your environment and what you're doing. Even if it's set at 10 yards, you can't see right in front of you, and your nods are out to here. So pretty big game changer for reloading with night vision, and just fast reloads in general. It just makes a giant funnel for your mag to go in. It's very nice. Guys, the A17 grip, one of my favorites. I still like the K2 better. I like the texture better on the A17, but the K2 is just a little bit wider. It's thicker, and I have a really big hand, so I still love this one aesthetically. It's probably my favorite looking grip, but I like the feel of the K2 just a little bit better. Now going back from there, we have the B5 SOP mod stock. This is not the LMT stock, even though LMT does make one for ridiculously more money, in my opinion. This is like $100 or $90, depending. You can find them for like 70 or 80 on sale using my code. But I find this stock gives me the best connection to the rifle, as well as the best cheek weld. It's got a nice big slope over here for your cheek, so you can get a very comfortable shooting position, whether you're shooting fast and up close, or if you're shooting far away and you're proned out and you're shooting for accuracy. It works either way really well. We already talked about the Geisley braided wire buffer spring and weight in here and the H3 buffer weight. That's gonna pretty much wrap it up, guys. If I had to sell all my guns and just keep 2 in 2025, as of the date of filming this video, it's 100% gonna be a 12.5, most likely the Spec War, because again of the modularity of being able to swap the barrels out very quickly and very easily. Not only that, it runs super smooth, it ran very reliable, it is acceptable on the accuracy. I have 0 bad things to say about it besides the position of the QD swivel over here on the handguard should definitely be up on the 45 like Geisley is. That is the better position. It is also not steel reinforced and it is not anti-rotation. There you go, take that LMT. That's one thing you guys need to change. But other than that, I am an absolute fan of this rifle and I'm looking forward to using more and more LMT products in the future. They are not cheap, but they are worth the money, guys. They do sell Brownells, so if you guys are interested, check them out. They're usually out of stock because everybody wants them, but be patient, sign up for those in-stock notifications and you'll see them come around every now and then. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I would really love to hear from you guys in the comment section about what rifle would you choose and what pistol and why. I am on the same journey as most of you guys. We all started somewhere, and I want to hear from you what your opinion is on my take and the guns that I chose. So thank you so much for staying to the end of the video, guys. If you do want to support the channel, rangedaybro.com. We have our discounts page, our loadouts page. This guy is up on the loadouts page, so you can go through all the parts that are on here in detail and find them if you want to as well. Also, like, comment, subscribe is a huge help. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Rumble, follow me on X, all the things. I love you guys. Thank you so much for all your support over the years. And until next time, drink a lot of water. Christ is king. Stay safe, stay dangerous. Range Day Bro, out.